Hello. In this video, I am going to run through every single green card in Edge of Eternities and find a home for it in Commander. First up, we have Atmospheric Greenhouse. For green 1/4, it's an artifact spacecraft. When it enters, you put a ++ counter on each creature you control, and once it hits 8 charge counters, it gets Flying and Trample. Not the most exciting, but it would work with Kona Rescue Beastie. For 4 mana, it's a 4/3 legendary creature, Beast Survival, with Survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, you can put a permanent card from hand to the battlefield. So my thought here is that you can use Kona to put into you tap Kona to the spacecraft, and then you would get its ability without having to risk it in combat. Bioengineer Future is a green and a green for an enchantment. Whenever this enchantment enters, you create a lander token. And whenever a creature you control enters each creature you control enters the battlefield with additional ++ counter on it for each land that enters the battlefield under your control this turn. The Necrobloom is a white, a black, and a green for a legendary creature plant with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 0/1 green plat creature token. If you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token instead. Land cards in your graveyard have dredge too. So, whenever Bioengineer Future enters, it gives you a land, and then every creature you control enters for each land that entered. You're making tokens, they're going to have multiple counters on them. It's just going to be a good time. Putting multiple counters on your plans is something your deck's already going to be aiming to do. So taking advantage of the land triggers. Plus, you get a little lander, and you can get you a basic land type that you might already have, so you get a different name. Necrobloom, you can play your 3 basics and your 3 snow basics, and the lander tokens can get any of those 6 options. Biothin Biosynthetic Burst. I do not like the way that sounds. For 1 and a green, it's an instant with put a ++ counter on target creature you control. It gains reach, trample, and indestructible to turn, untap it. Playable with Legolas Master Archer. For 1, a green and a green, it's a legendary creature, Elf Archer. Reach 1/4. Whenever you cast a spell, the target is put a ++ counter on it. Whenever you cast a spell, the target's a creature you don't control. It deals damage equal to its power up to 1 target creature. So my thought here is that you can put this on the Master Archer and give it a counters indestructible, and the indestructible is important because it's going to deal damage equal to its power. And untapping it's decent too. So even though indestructible doesn't work with that last ability, it's just another counter, another instance. Overall, Biosynthetic Burst is just a bad card and you probably shouldn't play. Blooming Steiner is green and a 1 for a creature, plant, scorpion, 2/2 with Death Touch. And whenever it enters, another target creature control gets Death Touch until turn. Kiri Talented Sprout is a red, a green, and a white for a legendary creature, plant, druid, 0/3. It gives other plants and tree folk you control +2/+0. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, return target plant, tree folk, or land card from your graveyard to your hand. So obviously, Talented Sprout is super good with fetch lands, but it could also be decent with creatures with Death Touch. Because in theory, my theory is that you could attack with the Stainer or give something else Death Touch, and if they don't block it, you get the damage in. But if they do block it and it dies, you can just get it back into your hand, and the Death Touch can kill something else. So even with like fight spells, your 2/2 might not die if you're not playing fight spells, and it could be playable here. It's also a plant if you want to build a plant deck. Brood Guard Elite is green X for a creature, insect, knight. It enters with X ++ counters on it. And whenever this creature leaves the battlefield, put its counters on target creature you control. And it has Warp, X, and a green. Zaxra the Exemplary is a black and a green and a blue for a legendary creature, Nightmare Hydra with Death Touch. It adds 2 mana of any color, and every single time you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, such as the Insect Knight, you make a 0/0 and put X counters on it. Now, the reason I like this in particular, usually you want to play like the good Hydras. You could warp it whenever it's like you warp it for 5. You get a 4/4. Zaxra gives you another 5/5, 4/4. And then it leaves, you put the counters on the Brood Guard Elite leaves, you put the counters on the Zaxra Hydra token. And so for 5 mana, you now have an 8/8 that sticks around, and then you can do it again the next turn for its normal mana cost. So it just feels like it has a lot of potential. So I like it there. Close Encounter is green and a 1 for an instant as an additional cost to cast this spell. Choose a creature you control or a warped creature card you own in exile. Close Encounter deals damage equal to its power of chosen creature or card to target creature. Wolverine Best There Is. 1, a red and a green for legendary creature, a mutant berserk hero with unrivaled lethality. Deal double all damage it would deal. At the beginning of your end step, if it dealt damage to another creature's turn, put a plus counter on it. And you can pay green 1 to regenerate it to 2/2. So, you could probably just play Close Encounter as any other spell. And now that I look, Close Encounter is the one dealing damage, so it doesn't even double the damage from Wolverine. Close Encounter is a bad card. There are other better bite spells. Unless your deck is literally played Warped. So just don't play Close Encounter. Diplomatic Relations is green, 2 for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains vigilance until turn. It deals damage equal to its power target creature an opponent controls. Diplomatic Relations got a 0-day errata. It received an update to say target creature you control so that you couldn't make an opponent's creature damage itself. This card is playable with Shelob, Child of Ungoliant. For 4, a black and a red. For 4, a black and a green, sorry. It's a legendary creature, Spider Demon. It's an 8/8 with Death Touching Ward 2, and it gives other spiders you control Death Touching Ward 2. Whenever another creature dealt damage this turn by a spider you control dies, create a token as the copy of it, except for it's a food. So, Diplomatic Relations is just a bad bite spell, and it's playable with the spider deck because if it dies, your spider, it becomes a food. So, yeah. Drix Fate Maker is greening 3 for a creature Drix Wizard. Whenever this creature enters, put a +1 counter each on target creature. Each creature you control with a +1 counter has trample, or you can warp it in for 2. So I think this card is playable with Animor, Soul of the Elements, especially if you're just playing with the +1 counter build. For green, a blue, and a red, it's a 1/1 with protection from white and from black. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1 counter on it, and the creature spells you cast cost 1 cast for each +1 counter on it. So if you're playing a +1/+1 counter-based teamer strategy, the Drix Fate Maker will give all of those creatures trample. So that's the deck that fits in. Edge Rover is 1 green for an artifact creature, Robot Scout. It's a 2/2 with reach. Whenever this creature dies, each player makes a lander token. Baba Saga Night Witch is 1 a green and a black for a 3/3 legendary creature, Human Warlock. With tap, sacrifice up to 3 permanents if there were 3 or more card types. Sorry. If there are 3 or more card types among the sacrifice permanents, each opponent loses your life, you gain 3 life, and drop your cards. So, my thinking here is that the Edge Rover is a 1-mana artifact and a creature, so it's 2 of the types you need. Plus, whenever it dies, you get a lander token, which is an artifact that you can sacrifice later. Whenever you sacrifice a creature enchantment or something. So that's what I was thinking here. It's not the best option for a 1-mana thing that leaves another thing you can sacrifice later behind, but in theory, if your deck was just built around sacrificing things, the Edge Rover giving you a land, you can sacrifice just to give yourself a land, still trigger your sacrificing things. Eumidian Pharaoh Botanist is green and a 1 for a creature insect druid, 2/3 with landfall. When a land enters, you gain a life. Dina Soul Steeper is a green and a black for a legendary creature, Dryad Druid. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses a life. It's a 1/3 with attack another creature. It gets +X/+0, X and sacrifice creature's power. So, in a Dina deck, you just want as many instances of life gain, and the Therabotanist can give you instances of life gain for just playing lands. So then, you gain life, they lose life. And all your every other +1/+1 counter synergies whenever you gain life, or any of your other synergies whenever you gain life. Social Engineering is 3 a green and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a land you control enters, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token, and it has warp for green and 1. I am going to put this in my Omnath Locus of Creation deck. For a red, green, white, and a blue, it's legendary creature elemental. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. And as a landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. If this is the first time split is resolved this turn. If the second time, you add red, a green, a white, and a blue. If it's the third time, Omnath deals 4 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker you don't control. So for me, there's already a card from Zendikar. Maybe it's called like Zendikar Rising, but it's like 3 black, 3 green, and it makes a 2/2 elemental. So because my deck doesn't have any other synergies of elementals, it's just strictly landfall. You social engineering is better because you could warp it into play at a turn where you don't have all 5 mana and get some value off of it there. So you social engineering playable in a landfall deck like Omni. Banished World Sire is 3, a green, a green, and a green. For a creature Leviathan, it has Ward 3 and Devour Land 3. As this creature enters, you may sacrifice any number of lands. It enters with 3 times that many +++ counters on it. When this creature enters, you'll tap X cards your library. X is this creature's power. Put any number of land cards from among them on a battlefield tapped and shuffle. Lumra, Bellow of the Woods, is 4, a green and a green for a legendary creature, Elemental Bear, with Vigilance and Reach. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. And when it enters, you mill 4 cards, and you return all of the land cards you gave it to the battlefield tapped. So you devour all of your loans, and then whenever your commander enters, you get all of them back. So that's what I was lining up here. So, Famous World Sire, pretty fun with the Bell of the Woods. Frenzied Baloth is green and a green for a creature beast. It's a 3/2. With this spell can't be countered. It has trample and haste. Creature spells you control can't be countered, and combat damage can't be prevented. Slinza, the Spiked Stampede, is 4 and a green for a 5/5 legendary creature beast. It has beast spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, which doesn't do anything with the Baloth. Each other beast creature you control enters with additional +1/+1 counter on it. And whenever it or another creature with power 4 or greater enters, you may pay 1, a red and a green when you do a fight circle you don't control. So the Baloth does not trigger the first ability or the last ability, but it does enter with additional +1/+ counter on it. So technically, actually, it does trigger the last ability. Because the 3 that enters the counter, so it's a 4, and you can pay 2 to fight. But if you're just playing Beast Kindred, you're just playing a Beast deck. It's just a playable Beast. I mean, obviously, yeah, Grizzly Bear eats your heart out, but Frenzied Baloth is great. Fungal Colossus is 6 and a green for a creature fungus beast. Is a 5/5. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. The Wandering Mistral is green and a blue for a 1/3 legendary creature human bard. Lands you control enter untapped, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, you create a 2/2 elemental creature token that's all colors. And then you can pay 3 and Warburg. Other creatures you control get +X on a turn X the number of towns you control. So if you're playing a town deck and you're just playing as many towns as you can, the Fungal Colossus can probably come down for like 1 green, since you're going to have access to every town and all 5 colors. You're just going to be playing 6 different lanes. So it's going to be 1 green for a 5/5. So, Galactic Wayfarer is 2 and a green for a 3/3. When it enters, you make a lander token. Kogla the Tying Ape is 3 green for legendary creature ape. It enters, it fights up to one target creature. It attacks, it destroys an artifact or enchantment. And you can pay 1 and a green to return a human you control to his hand. It is indestructible as an other turn. Sorry, I yawned. Kogla gains indestructible until end of turn. This is a human you can bounce to keep giving yourself lands. And then creating lander tokens just gives you some synergy there to ramp. So, Galactic Wayfarer is not a very good card, but it's playable with Clover. Gene Pollinator is 1 green for an artifact creature robot insect. It's a 1/2 with tap and untapped permanent you control to add 1 mana of any color. Grist the Hunger Tide is 1 a green and a black for legendary creature Grist. As long as it isn't on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature token and it shows other types. Not a token, it's 1/1 insect creature. +1, create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then mill a card. If an insect card was milled this way, put a loyalty counter on it and repeat this process. -2, you make your sacrifice a creature. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker. And -5, each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So, this is an insect for the deck if you're trying to build an insect deck. The other fun thing that I love about this card, but I keep thinking about ever since I made this presentation like a week ago, you can tap the planeswalker to add 1 mana of any color, which is fun because your planeswalkers don't care if they're tapped or untapped. You can tap them to the pollinator, which I just, for some reason, really love the idea of. Germinating Worm is 1 green and 4 for a creature plant worm. When it enters, you gain 2 life and has warp for 2. Baru Worm Speaker is 2 a green and a green for a legendary creature human druid. Worms you control get +2/+2 and have trample, and it has 7 in the green tap. Create a 4/4 green worm creature token. Costs X less to activate, where X is the greatest power among worms you control. So, This worm, he gets the +2/+2, so it makes the ability cost just 1 green. So, that being said, you can warp a Germinating Worm into play for green 1, pay 1 green to tap it, and immediately make a 4/4. So if you have nothing else to do and you can't afford 5 mana, you can pay 3, tap your command to make 4/4, which is really just like 6 ships of trample. It's kind of fine to warp it into play for that 1 turn and then use the ability, so that's fun. Glacier Godmaw is 5 and a green for a creature Leviathan 6/6 with trample. When it enters, make a lander token. Landfall, whenever a land you control enters, creature you control get ++1, gain vigilance and haste on turn. Kyora, Sovereign of the Deep, is 3, a green and a blue for a legendary creature, Merfolk Noble. It's a 4/5 with vigilance and ward 3. Whenever you cast a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent spell from your hand, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's mana value. You may cast a spell with mana value less than X from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it kind of gives you Cascade based on the mana value. Limited is the cards of the mana value that you look at. But the Godmaw is good because in the colors of green and blue, giving all of your creatures haste is great, and giving them vigilance is pretty good as well. So it's another Leviathan for this build, but I think this is actively a good Leviathan upgrade. There's probably a crappy Octopus or Serpent you could removable comment for this. This is going to play well in this deck, I think. Harmonious Grove Strider is 3 and a green. It's a creature beast with ward 2. This creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Ashia, Soul of the Wild is 3, a green for legendary creature elemental. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. Non-token creatures you control are forest land in addition to the other types. So every single time a creature dies, it becomes a land and makes the Grove Strider bigger. Yeah, A plus B equals C. I don't really have to paint it out too much. Hemosymbiotic Might. Hemosymbic Might. For 1 green, it's a creature might. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, another target creature control gets ++6 until end of turn or exits its power. Sovereign Okinik Ohau is 2, a green and a white legendary creature cat noble. Whenever it attacks, for each creature control its base power greater than that creature's base power, play a number of ++ counters on the creature equals the difference. So the might, whenever it attacks, puts its ++ on thing. It makes other creatures' base power taller, which gets more counters on it, and you can get some counters on the might. So there's just synergy to buff things, to put counters on them, to get counters on the might. Just go from there. So. Ice Cave Crasher is 3 and a green for a creature beast 4/4. Whenever a land you control enters, this creature gets +1/+0 until end turn. Gladiolus, Amicitia. I don't know. I probably should have practiced some of these cards' names before I started recording. For 4, a red and a green is legendary creature, human warrior. Whenever it enters, search a library for a land card, put into play, tap, and shuffle. Whenever land enters the battlefield, another target creature control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. If you're playing a Pauper Commander landfall deck, is where you could play the Ice Cave Crasher. If you're not playing exactly that deck, do not play the Ice Cave Crasher. I Still Explorer is 2, a green and a green for a creature insect scout. You may play an additional land at each of your turns. You can play lands from your graveyard whenever a land you control enters mill card. To follow the balance scale is 1, a black, a green, and a blue for a legendary creature, Spirit Dragon. It's a flying 4/4 with whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a land card from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, make a 2/2. A lot going on. So in this deck, you're going to want to play fetch lands and Terramorphic Expanse and Exploring Wilds, and Escaped Wilds. But, and Fabled Passage, and you're going to, the Ice Explorer lets a land leave your graveyard, because you can play it, make it 2/2. Whenever it attacks, you get a different land back into play, and the land enters, you mill a card. So you're adding more cards to your graveyard, you're getting your lands back after you sacrifice them to search for different lands, you're making a 2/2 every single time that happens. Ice Explorer, it's a great card. Intrepid Tenderfoot is green 1, 2/2 creature insect citizen. 3 mana, put a ++ counter on this creature, activate only as a sorcery. Vestrin Menoptera Leader is green, X for a legendary creature, Alien Insect Scouts. It has flying. It enters with X++ encounters on it. When it enters, you make X1/1s, and whenever you attack with one or more insects, put ++ counter on them. So if you're playing a +1/+1 encounter-based insect deck, then you could include the Intrepid Tenderfoot to put counters on itself, if you care about ++ counters. Overall, it's just not a great card, but if you care about insects and want ++ encounter synergies, this is one you can include here. Larval Scoutlander is 2 and a green for a artifact spacecraft. When it enters, you may sacrifice a land or lander. If you do, search your library for 2 base land cards, put into play, tap, then shuffle. The one who has 7 charge counters on it with Dacian, it's a 3/3. Tifa Lockhart is bringing 1 for a 1/2 legendary creature human monk with trample. Whenever a land you control enters, double its power until end of turn. So this gives you more triggers towards your landfall and has 2 more lands come into play, doubling its power twice. Not a great card, but it's playable here. Lash Whip Predator is 4 a green and a green for a creature, plant, beast. It's a 5/7. This card costs 2 less to cast if your opponents control 3 or more creatures. If you're playing Commander, they're probably going to control 3 or more creatures. Pilaf World Sculptor is 4 a red and a green for a legendary creature elemental. When it enters, create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each basic land you control. And it has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put 4 ++ encounters on target plant you control. So if you're playing a plant-based deck and just care about a number of plants and need a big plant instead of just striking with 0/1s, you could play the Lash Whip Predator. And it's probably only going to be 4 mana for a 5/7 reach. Landing Zone is 3 and a green for an enchantment. If one or more counters will be put on a creature, spacecraft, or planet you control, twice that many of each of those kinds of counters are put on instead, and then it has work for 1 creature. Just want the effect for 1 turn, 1 green. Titus Yuna's Guardian is green, a white, and a blue, so banned. Legendary creature, human warrior, 3/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. As cheer, whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and play for usually once each turn. So, every single time you move a counter, you're putting that 1 counter on something else, it would become 2. So that's why it's good here. Plus, you're probably just playing a ++ or counter-based deck. I also like the 3rd and 4th line text of Titus. Creature you control lines up beautifully. So, Landing the Zone is good with Titus because you're moving counters on and probably playing a ++ counter-based deck. Melt Strider Eulogist is 2 and a green for a creature, insect, soldier, 3/3. When a creature control with a ++ counter on it dies, draw a card. Felifar Dawn of the Azban is a white, a black, and a green for a 3/3 legendary creature, human warrior, trample. When it enters or attacks, you may sacrifice a non-land permanent. When you do, put a ++ counter on each creature you control. So, my thought here is because you're putting ++ counter on each creature you control and you're sacrificing things and trading them off, even just with more than just your commander, you get to draw cards. And drawing cards is always good. Having more options than commander is the best thing you can do. So you need to draw cards in. So this is definitely playable here, especially if you have mana value of 3 mana in your deck at all. This happens to be 3 mana. Melt Strider's Gear is 1 green for an artifact equipment. When it enters, attach a target creature you control. It gets +2/+1 in reach. Mirror Scholar of Antiquity is 1 a red and a green for a legendary creature, Elf Artificer. Tap an untapped non-token artifact you control to add green. Tap 2 to exile the top card of the library and you may play it. So, Melt Strider's Gear is just actively a bad card. But if you want to pay it for 1 green and then immediately tap it, you can add another green. So it essentially just gives you the mana back while keeping more artifacts in play so you can play out your hand of Cheerios faster. But Melt Strider Gear is just not a good card. Melt Strider's Resolve is a better card. For 1 green, it's an enchantment aura. It enchants a creature you control. When it enters, enchanted creature fights up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. An enchanting creature gets +0/+2 and can be blocked by more than 1 creature. Stag Echo Warrior is 2 a red and a green for a legendary creature, human warrior, 3/4. Whenever it attacks, create a legendary 3/4 red and green human warrior creature token. It enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. For each aura and equipment attached to Stag, this one, create a token that's a copy of it attached to Stag Twin. Sacrifice all the tokens created this way to the next end step. So, Because this is an Ura, it enters attached to the Echo Warrior. It can fight something, so it deals 3 damage, And then the token copy of it also enters and can fight something. And because you're probably playing buffing equipment and Uras, it's probably going to be bigger than a 3/4. Plus, you make the 3/4 only being able to attack can be blocked by more than one creature. So this is on it, and you have a menace enchantment or equipment on it. The token is unblockable, okay? And so is your command. But Melt Strider's Resolve is the fun card there. Might Form Harmonizer is 2 a green for a creature inside Druid with landfall. It's a 4/4. Whenever a land you control enters, double the power of target creature you control until end of turn. And then it has Warp 2 and a green. AC Tyrant of Gyre Strait is 4 a green and a blue for a legendary creature Serpent, allowing you to play more than one land on each of your turns. It has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you may draw a card, and it's a 5/5. Very powerful card. But Might Farm Harmonizer, every single time one of your lands enter, you can double the power of something. So if you play 2 lands and choose your commander both times, it becomes a 20/20, which is 1 damage away from just killing on commander damage. And you're going to be playing other bigger creatures. Even if you just played 2 lands and doubled the power and toughness of Might Form, just the power, it would become a 16/4, which is super strong. So good in these landfall decks if you're trying to go aggressive. Ouroborid is 2 and a green for a creature plant worm 1/3. At the beginning of coming a turn, put X plus counters on each creature controller X is this creature's power. Borinclex Monstrous Raider is 4 a green for a legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor. It's a 6/6 with trample and haste. If one or more counters you put on a permanent or player, put twice that many at each of those kinds of counters on that permanent or player instead. If an opponent would put counters, it gets halved. I don't want to read the whole thing, so it just gets halved. So every single time you put counters on all of your creatures because of Ouroborid, and Ouroborid gets bigger and puts more counters on things, it doubles them. So it just scales even faster, which is super good. Pull Through the Weft is 3 a green for a sorcery. Return up to 2 target non-land permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Then return up to 2 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield taps. Yuma Proud Protector is 5 a red, a green, and a white for a legendary creature Human Ranger. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each land in your graveyard. When it enters or attacks, make sack a land if you do draw a card. Whenever a desert card is put into your graveyard from anywhere, make a 4/2 green plant warrior creature token for each. So, Pull Through the Weft can get 2 cards back into your hand and then puts 2 lands that you were sacrificing back into play taps. So it can get 4 cards from your graveyard, joins your hand, and 2 lands into play, which triggers being able to sacrifice those deserts again, because there's only a finite amount of deserts that's in your deck. So, Pull Through the Weft is a lot of fun with you, I think. Sammy's Curiosity is a green for a sorcery. You gain 2 life, make a lander. Laphiel, the Bounteous Dawn, is 2 a green and a white for legendary creature Unicorn. It has lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, distribute that many plus counters among any number of other card creatures. I'm a firm believer in your synergy pieces, in your non-synergy pieces that would normally just be like a ramp function, having some kind of utility that acts as synergy. So my thought here is, if Sammy's Curiosity was green 2 and search your library for a basic land card put into play taps, and you gains 2 life, I would still be recommending you play it here. Because you want your deck to already do what your deck is trying to do, play lands, but you also get additional synergies. Because if you're playing your commander that's this Unicorn, you're probably playing other life gain triggered cards. Care about you getting life. So having your ramp pieces also getting your life is great. On this cost of the 1 green, you can do it on turn 1 if you have nothing else going on. Or later in the game, you can gain life and trigger your stuff and to get lands and thin your deck. Oh, and have an artifact enter. Oh, and sacrifice a permanent. There's a lot of synergies you could have there. Seed Ship Agrarian. 3 and a green for an insect scientist 3/3. When this creature becomes tapped, make a lander. Whenever a land will enter, put a +1 counter on it. Wily Duke, a 10 hero, is 1 a green and a white for a legendary creature Human Ranger with vigilance and 4/2, that whenever it becomes tapped, you gain a life and draw a card. So if you're playing a deck with Wily Duke as the commander, you're already playing vehicles or spacecraft or anything or maps, And this is something that you could also tap to any of those 3 things while also getting lander tokens, which is another artifact entering. If you're playing vehicles or spacecraft, you might care about artifact synergies, or you can just sacrifice the lander token to get a land. So there are some cross synergies here. Seed Ship Impact is green on a 1 for an instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. If the mana value is 2 or less, make a lander. Chatterfang Squirrel General is 2 in a green for legendary creature Squirrel Warrior with Force Work. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, those tokens plus another one, plus that many 1/1 squirrels are created instead. So again, I'm going to repeat myself. My thought here is that if you're already going to have a slot in your deck for a nationalized type effect that's going to destroy an artifact or enchantment, you might as well have it synergized with your deck. So if you happen to destroy a Soul Ring, you can get a lander, you would also just get a squirrel. And since your deck is probably going to care about tokens more than just squirrels tokens, having more tokens enter and having more tokens leave and more things that sacrifice tokens is just more synergy for your deck, which you want and need. Shattered Wings, just actively not a good card, but it's playable here. For 2 in a green with a sorcery, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with fine, surveil 1. Chick, Emerald Radiant is 3 a black and a green for legendary creature Insect Druid. When it enters, get a 1/1 green insect creature token for each artifact and or creature in your graveyard. Whenever another insect you control dies, put a ++1 counter on it, each opponent loses a life. My thought here is that you want to fill up the graveyard so you can surveil. A little bit of synergy. But Shattered Wings is a bad card, don't play. Sky Steiner is green and a 2 for a creature Insect Warrior 3/3. When it blocks creature with flying, this creature gets +5/+0 until end of turn. I did not want to repeat the same commanders over and over again. That's why this is an insect that's just with this random scarecrow. But the Swarm Weaver is 2 a black and a green. When it enters, make 2 1/1 insects. And as long as there are 4 more card types in one card your graveyard, insects and spiders you control have +1/+1 and Death Touch. I will say that not all of your insects have reach. So this being an insect, if you're building an insect deck, having reach and then giving Death Touch from our commander would be good. And plus, even without the Death Touch from our commander, an 8/3 can probably block like every dragon and like a ton of stuff. Unless your opponent literally made an Eldrazi fly, you're probably fine. Sludge Class Seed Ship is 2 in a green for an artifact spacecraft station. Fine, whenever it attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand to the battlefield. Ovia Automech Artisan is 3 in a green for legendary creature Human Artificer. Each creature that's attacking one of your opponents has trample. That counts your opponent's creatures that are attacking your other opponents. Green, tap, you may put a vehicle or creature from your hands to the battlefield. If an artifact enters this way, you put 2 +2 counts on it. Since that creature probably cannot immediately attack, if it has power 7, you can immediately crew the Seed Ship. So that's cool. And then when the spacecraft attacks, you get another creature into play. So if you're just cheating things into play, you can cheat something into play with your commander. If it has 7 or more, if it's an artifact, it's a 5 power, and then it becomes 7, and then you can tap it to this Sledge Class Seed Ship and get some charge counters on it. Tapestry Warden is 3 and a green for an artifact creature robot soldier. It's a 3/4 with vigilance. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Each creature you control with toughness greater than its power stations permanents using its toughness rather than its power. Baitor Ken'Tal is 2 a white, a black, and a green for legendary creature Spirit Dragon. It's a 5/7 with flying. At the beginning of your end step, if creatures you control have total toughness 10 or greater, draw a card. Then if creatures you control have total toughness 20 or greater, untap each creature you control. Then if creatures you control have total toughness 40 or greater, each opponent loses half their life on it up. You're playing a big bud deck. You care about high toughnesses and those being able to attack or deal damage equal to their toughness. You're already going to have some of those effects, but this is just another creature that counts towards the 40 total that you need. I know there's like an enchantment that does this effect, but this is a creature that counts towards that 40. It's 10% of the 40, because you're 10%, it's 10% of the 40, and it has greater toughness than power if you have cards that care about that. So, playable there. Terra Symbiosis is 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever one or more +++ encounters, whenever you put one or more ++ encounters on a creature you control, you may draw that many cards used only once each turn. Miss Bumble Flower is 1 a green, a white, and a blue. When a vigilance, whenever you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card. Put a ++ counter on target creature. It gains flying line of turn. If this is the second time this ability is resolved this turn, you draw 2 cards. So, on the first trigger, put a plus plus counter on target creature. Since, you're probably going to do that more than once in a turn. But if you just do it once with Terra Symbiosis, you draw a card. So then it says, when you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card, put a plus plus counter something, and then you draw a card. And then if it triggers a second time, they draw a card, and then you draw 2 cards. So just more card draw in your group HUD deck. And it's also important to note that if you cast spells in your opponent's turn, you can re-trigger the number of plus plus counters you put, because it's each turn, not only on your turn. Thawbringer is 2 and a green for a creature insect scout 4/2. When it enters or dies, surveil 1. Amzu Swarm's Hunger is 3, a black and a green for a legendary creature insect shaman from the Clue edition set. It's a 3/3 with flying and menace, and other insects you control have menace. Whenever one of our cards leave your graveyard, you may create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then put a number of plus counters onto it equal to the greatest amount of volume on those cards to slowly each turn. So, again, I didn't want to keep putting the same insect commander, but a 4/2 with menace that enters or dies and fills up your graveyard for things you can leave later. And it has 3, so it has 3 mana value. So it would put 3 plus to counter up something. So it's not the worst, it's not the best, but if you're building insect kindred, you might care about it. And then even though Waking Haven is a land plane planet, this land enters tap, add a green, and then if it has 12 or more charge counters, green tap, add green for each creature control. Lathril, Blade of the Elves is 2, a black and a green for legendary creature elf noble with mana to take 2/3. When it deals combat damage to your player, create damage 1/1 green elf creature tokens, and then tap 10 untapped LG control. Each opponent loses 10 life and you gain 10 life. You probably want a Gaia's Cradle type effect in your elf deck. You're going to make a ton of tokens, and then you can use those tokens. If you can't activate Lathril's ability of tapping 10 elves, you can immediately tap those 1/1s to even though and get synergy there. So those are all of the green cards in Edge of Eternities, and I commanded that it would be playable with each. I've already made a video with white, blue, red, and black, and I'm going to make a multicolor and colorless in the next 2 days. If you enjoyed this video and watched 37 minutes of me talk about Magic cards, I implore you to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment on your thoughts, how I could improve. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thanks.